Breaking news, the 49ers will not be headed down to Irvine this Thursday and Friday for joint practices against the Saints. They've mutually agreed with New Orleans to cancel those ahead of the two teams' preseason game, which is still going to happen next Sunday at Levi's Stadium. Why? Well, because the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan said yesterday after the game here in Tennessee against the Titans, they had 23 players miss their most recent practice for various reasons. And Shanahan was hoping that the situation would have a better prognosis today when he checked in on the roster, but apparently that prognosis was not good enough for him to have confidence to be able to run a joint practice with the Saints. Instead, the 49ers are going to release a modified schedule. Obviously, they're just going to be practicing with themselves before Sunday's game. So this is a big deal because Kyle Shanahan in the past has talked about how important joint practices are for some of his play installation, for some of the preparation for the regular season. You could go all the way back to 2017 when Shanahan took over the 49ers. They had a joint practice with the Denver Broncos that season, and essentially every season since then, the 49ers have had joint practices. I remember the Texans or either 2018 or 2019, they've had joint practices with the Minnesota Vikings, the Chargers in 2021, and the Raiders last season. So the 49ers have typically traveled for these. That's why they were about to head down to Irvine. The Saints are having their training camp in the former Rams facility at UC Irvine because the Rams are now in LA County. So the Saints moved from Louisiana for August, which makes a lot of sense, to Southern California. And the 49ers, because there's more field space down there, are ready to do the two practices down in Irvine before flying back up to the Bay Area for the game. Both teams would have flown back up for the game. That would have been a funky setup. It would have been interesting, but that is no longer going to happen. 49ers had another injury. The one that we know of from the game yesterday was Ambry Thomas breaking his forearm. And I'm sure that we're going to get a further update from Kyle Shanahan tomorrow. I've got to fly back to the Bay Area from Tennessee in time for practice tomorrow, which is probably going to be a little bit later as the 49ers try to get a little bit more sleep recovery after this trip to Tennessee. By the way, I sleep in your own bed, all that kind of stuff. 49ers have really emphasized that over the years. It's a better way to get recovery and to make sure that the body is good to go after injuries. So I'm sure that a little less travel is something that the 49ers are thinking about in terms of injury recovery. It's not just practice logistics and not having 20 plus players available to practice. It's also about the schedule and the ease with which guys can work back into the mix if they do get a little bit of extra sleep and stay off of planes, because the 49ers are going to have plenty of flights this season, including some cross-country ones. West Coast teams always travel the most, and the 49ers want to make sure they're ready for the marathon ahead. So the 49ers are not headed down to Irvine. Instead, they will wait for Sunday when the Saints will come marching in to Levi's Stadium.